What if everything you've been taught about the human diet is dead wrong? We're not built for grains, salads, or lean meats. We're fat hunters. And the proof? It's in your liver, your colon, and your ancestors' bones. Stick around. This changes everything. Hi everyone, my name is Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach. This is part of my highlights presentation series, and this one's on We're Not Omnivores, We're Fat Hunters, the real human diet exposed. So let's get on to it here. It starts with your digestive tract, which tells a different story than many nutrition textbooks do. In humans, the colon represents only 20% of total digestive tract volume. In apes, it accounts for 50%. This anatomical difference reveals something profound about human evolution. We didn't evolve as generalized omnivores, capable of thriving on plants and animals equally. In fact, we're facultative carnivores, which means while we can eat non-meat products and get some nutrition from them, we are adapted to only really burning fat for fuel. Okay, and that's very important. So let's talk about how do we know that we're adapted to fat and not protein? Because obviously you're eating animal flesh, you got lots of protein as well. Well, there's this thing called the protein ceiling constraint. And this is probably one of the most compelling pieces of evidence from a metabolic limitation that shaped our entire evolutionary trajectory. Humans cannot survive on protein alone. We hit what researchers call the protein ceiling at a roughly 35 to 40% of daily caloric intake. Beyond this threshold, protein poisoning occurs, right? The liver can only produce 250 grams of glucose from protein daily, providing roughly 1,000 calories maximum. When protein intake exceeds this capacity, ammonia and nitrogenous compounds accumulate in the bloodstream. The result is nausea, diarrhea, neurological dysfunction, and eventually death. Arctic explorers who decided to try and live on the snow rabbits that they could find in the winter when they were trying to find like the Northwest Passage and stuff would suffer from this because they didn't eat the fatty blubber from the seals that the indigenous peoples were eating. And without all the fat, they were missing key nutrients, and once again, the body just can't process protein that properly. Okay? So this constraint had profound implications for our ancestors because obviously they recognized this right away because it's how they felt. In cold, carbohydrate scarce environments, right? Think of the ice ages when you've seen all the images of early humans living in caves in ice, right? Well, they could not thrive on lean meat alone. They required animals with substantial fat reserves. And archaeological evidence supports this fat-seeking behavior. Early humans selectively transported fatty body parts back to base camps for everyone to eat. They boiled the bones for grease extraction, right? They targeted the fattest available prey. The protein ceiling drove us to become specialized fat hunters, not general meat eaters. And then, how do we know that this is the case? Well, let's look at this archaeological time gap, right? We can see the timeline of human tool development, and this reveals another crucial piece of evidence. Stone tools for butchering animals appear 1.5 to 2 million years ago. Tools for plant processing don't emerge until 40,000 years ago. This represents a 1.5 million year gap where humans made tools exclusively for accessing animal foods, and specifically the fat portion of the animals. During this period, stable isotope analysis shows early humans had nitrogen signatures similar to apex carnivores like wolves and lions. A small side note, you ever watched a wolf pack or a pack of lions take down prey? The first thing they eat are the fatty parts of the animal. They leave the lean meat for the scavengers. Okay? Plant foods served as seasonal fallbacks, not dietary staples. The late arrival of plant processing technology suggests humans only began exploiting hard to digest plant foods after developing the tools and cooking methods to make them viable. Okay? Agriculture emerged around 10,000 years ago, give or take, marking a radical dietary shift rather than a continuation of existing omnivory. There was a reason for this. Okay? Part of this reason was what we call the megafauna extinction crisis. The most dramatic chapter in this story involves the collapse of our primary food source. For nearly 2 million years, humans hunted massive, fat-rich animals, woolly mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and aurochs, right, which is a giant bovine animal. Think of it like a big cow. Okay? They provided the high-fat, nutrient-dense foods our physiology demanded. Then came the late Pleistocene extinctions. Between 52,000 and 9,000 BCE, more than 178 species of the world's largest mammals disappeared. The extinction pattern follows human migration precisely. Wherever Homo sapiens arrived, megafauna vanished within approximately 1,000 years. We hunted them to death. This wasn't an ecological shift, it was a nutritional catastrophe. With fat-rich megafauna gone, humans faced an impossible choice. Lean small game couldn't meet the fat requirements due to the protein ceiling. Seasonal plant foods lacked the caloric density and year-round availability needed for survival. Agriculture emerged as metabolic triage, not dietary progress. So there's now a new modern metabolic crisis that we're dealing with. So current dietary guidelines institutionalize the very dysfunction that began with the megafauna extinction. Our evolutionary design requires animal fat as primary fuel. We efficiently produce ketones from fat, depend on fat-soluble nutrients found primarily in animal foods, and are optimized for intermittent eating patterns. Right? We're designed to fast frequently. Modern guidelines promote the opposite. They recommend 45 to 65% of calories from carbohydrates, emphasize whole grains and low-fat diets, and demonize the saturated animal fats our physiology demands. The results are predictable. Since low-fat, high-carbohydrate guidelines were introduced in 1980, obesity has tripled. Okay? Diabetes has skyrocketed, and most Americans now show, and not just Americans, this is worldwide, right, show markers of metabolic distinction. That's upwards of 95-98% of all people have markers of metabolic dysfunction. These outcomes aren't coincidental. They represent predictable consequences of forcing a fat-adapted physiology to run on agricultural fallback foods. Chronic hyperinsulinemia from constant carbohydrate intake suppresses fat burning and promotes inflammation. Grains and seed oils displace nutrient-dense animal foods, creating micronutrient deficiencies linked to mood disorders, infertility, and developmental delays. So, is there a path forward for us? Oh, sure, there is. Recognizing humans as facultative carnivores doesn't require abandoning civilization. It requires aligning our nutritional approach with our evolutionary biology. This means emphasizing animal-based nutrition through ruminant meat, organ meats, eggs, and fatty fish. It means rejecting industrial seed oils, refined carbohydrates, and ultra-processed foods. It means viewing fasting and ketosis not as dietary fads, but as ancestral metabolic states. The evidence from anatomy, physiology, archaeology, and modern health outcomes points to the same conclusion. We are not generalized omnivores adapted for balanced plant and animal consumption. We are specialized fat hunters whose current dietary paradigm represents a fundamental mismatch with our evolutionary design. The path to optimal health lies not in perfecting agricultural nutrition, but in reclaiming the metabolic wisdom that sustained our species for 2 million years. All right. Maybe I hope that opened some eyes. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the appropriate section. And if you have any ideas for things you'd like me to cover, this is a community we're building here. I want to answer your questions and keep helping you find the things you're looking for. Let me know. And as always, if you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, share this video with somebody who may need it. You could be helping somebody who you don't realize you are. Thank you so much.